Before I even get into the topics of this video, I want people to be aware that I have a 13-page, 12 or 13-page article that I wrote, and I know this article will change your view on prophecy. And each to their own. By the way, the topic of this is the things that they're putting out there, like HANTAVIRUS and this alien deception and things to do with like manner. So I wrote this article, and I know a lot of people have trouble with believing that someone like Donald Trump could be the Antichrist of the Bible, but he is. And Elon Musk is a false prophet, so they're the first and second beast. And people who talk about a dragon being a person doesn't even make sense, because it's the devil. So if you want to see that article, I'm not saying it's completely in order, but if you want to see it, I'll leave you my email address. I will just tell you what it is. It's lionofjudah.is-taken@gmail.com. So that's one of my emails that I use for like prayers and stuff like that. And so just email that, and I'll also leave it in the description box. And do that, and then I will give you the PDF form. So, because I know there are people who ask me about this article and then never bothered asking me again. I think you'd really like this, not in a good way either, but like in terms of prophecy. So, I was watching a video last night. These are harder videos for me to do now because my gallbladder has got a lot worse on me. So the breaks that I have to take in my voice and what it does to my throat because of another disorder makes it quite tough for me. So bear with me. I was watching a YouTube video by people who I do trust in the spirit, just brothers who are knowledgeable in the scriptures. And he started to show things, get your house ready and something's coming. And people have been saying this for quite some time. And I hope you're like me in the capacity of not being afraid. Whatever comes, let it come. I can look at my life and say, look where God has taken me. Look what God has given me. And, if another one of these virus type things comes by, who knows, a lot of that could be taken. If that's God's will, so be it. Because we know where this is going to lead. But, so I had never seen these articles because I don't search these out. Isn't it funny that that all the new diseases that we hear about, these ticks in forests, that suddenly have the ability to move very quickly, move as quickly as a cricket. Ticks can't move like that. Yes, I do believe they were bioengineered. Absolutely believe that. I've been around long enough to know that these don't do that. And when I was young, the warning of ticks wasn't really that much. And then you have scientists who go and say, well, we've had dry seasons, warm seasons. Some of that is true, but we also have, cold, very cold winters, and man, it's always a balance that seems to be in their favor. Like the Canadian wildfires, like biggest wildfires in history, 2 summers in a row. Even though we had a very, very cold winter. Or sorry, that was this winter. Who knows what happens this year? It's funny that it always seems to appear to come from the West. Even if something appears in Eastern countries, somehow it has a connection to the West. This is just the way it is. Since all these things, since the birth pains have begun, and let's be honest, the birth pains started to speed up to the point of where it will never go back till we get to the kingdom. We've heard, I don't know if you, if I was to write them all down, you guys would be baffled. I've probably heard no less than 20 new diseases that were never here before. And I believe they were all engineered. And we have a lot of proof to what I'm saying by experiments that we know they have done. Even supposed controlled release of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, they give them a virus to go in it and mate with other mosquitoes to kill them. Like, man, you're playing with fire. You're trying to block the sun. Where I live, for the past 20 years, it has been pretty warm. It would be really warm for the last month at least. It's like right now, it's like 10 degrees, 10, 12 degrees. And that is, we just had the most brutal winter I've ever seen in my life. I'm Canadian, man. I live right in the thick of it. And we know and we hear that they're controlling the weather. So let's talk about what I saw in this guy's video. I saw clips of 2 articles. One was that Trump is releasing the UFO disclosure, and that they were contacting government officials, contacting pastors, famous pastors. There's a lot of pastors in the United States about this disclosure. My brother says to me, it's funny how it's just the West. I already knew this, but for him to say that, it's always the West. But maybe it's because if there really are these demons that they're going to show us, how could they be angels anyways? The fallen angels, as we know them, they were judged. And they're are they not under the Euphrates River by hard rocks against them in the book of Enoch? But there's things we also don't know. We know there are demons. We know, strange time. Last summer I was walking I live in there's at least 15 apartment-like blocks around where I am. And I was walking between 2 of them in the summertime, and I didn't have a good phone then. I have a better phone. I have one of those Google Pixel ones. And but though I didn't, it wouldn't have been good. It wouldn't have showed up well even if I got out on camera. But I looked up in the sky, and the very story my friend saw when I was 15 years old. He told me a story where these lights, they just appear in the sky. I was 15 years old and I was meeting my friends. I was walking up a hill and I just missed it. I could hear them all screaming. It was meeting about 4 or 5 different friends up on a hill. I was walking up a hill, but they were up another hill, and they were screaming and yelling. And when I got up there, they told me what happened. They saw these lights that would appear, and they would circle around one another, and they would appear 30 kilometers away within 1 second, disappear, or do all these strange things. I remember that in my heart, and I never denied that they saw that. That was 30 years ago, 30 plus years, it was 32 years ago. That's exactly what I saw last year. That they were red lights. And it was like a traffic light that I was looking at way up in the sky. And it was a clear night sky. So when it's clear night, they're far. These were. And then one started to, it was, traffic light, like one light, round. They were bright red, like the sun in the daytime. Sorry, not that much, but like a very nice red. And I knew they were far away. So this thing had to be huge. They were not drones. One lit up the other and the other. Then I saw it was like a traffic light. Then one goes around the other, and then they start doing all these strange movements. One appears way over there. And I knew when I was watching this, I looked over to the left and I could see an airliner coming towards where they were. An airliner, and I really knew how far away they were. Can I judge a distance properly? Probably not. Can I judge how far they are away? I think I'm intelligent enough to know that they were far away. And they were. So it went on for about 4 or 5 minutes, like a long show. No one was around either. It was between the buildings and it was dark. There was no lights in between that area, so it was good so I could see because of the darkness. I would have seen it anyways. I stood for another 5 minutes after they were gone. I couldn't believe that I saw that. And I knew that was something that had to have been engineered that is not available to humans. And so, I was one of those people all those years, I'm not going to believe it till you show me. And I'm still like that. I'm not going to believe anything until you show me. So the Trump UFO disclosure. So he's suddenly going to sign this. He did sign it. And they're contacting pastors. You've heard this probably. They're contacting pastors to tell them that ready the Christian world for this, and they're only contacting the Christians so far. Because they say, I looked at the articles, these were trustworthy places that were saying this. And you can even see it on Christian Broadcasting Network, which I don't. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with on that network, but it's a Christian Broadcasting Network. They were talking to Perry Stone, and Perry Stone, oh man, I made a video about him, but hey, listen, if he's repented and everything, there's some things that he says that I honestly don't believe. But anyways, it's not just him. There are a lot of other pastors that they've reached out to, pardon me. Imagine this is what's happening. This is what's happening. I have a very good memory. I have autism, so I remember things that people tend to forget. I'm going to tell you some things. One of the things that they're doing to us as a society is as it says, they'll wear out the saints, but they'll just wear the world out, and that's what's happening because of electronics, right? They're wearing the world out. I wish I could rip the internet off. If I had the chance, I'd do it. That what they do is, ever since 2020, the world wasn't like this before this, and suddenly we're being deceived. Every step of the way, something new. Don't you find that strange? But people don't really see it for what it is. It's the end of time. It's the end of the Jubilee. Look at the Essenes, man. Look what it's coming up to. It's coming to the 7,000th, the 7th millennium. That is the millennial kingdom of Jesus Christ. Almost exactly it will come up exactly. And I think it was meant to be that way, that we didn't know the exact date that Jesus came and died. People debate it. Because if we knew, we'd probably know. Anyways, they do something like, let's think of the coronavirus. And so I'll talk about this. So we're talking about the HANTAVIRUS, we're talking about UFO disclosure. So if a disclosure happens, so let it happen. But it's funny, what are they doing over here? Well, they tell us this. They're failing in that war, the Iran war. And of all people, the Antichrist, Donald Trump, at the helm, the man who will do anything to get attention or to create a diversion. He is the man of sin who will do that at the flick of a finger. Did he not just do that in this, what was that guy's, Noel from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory? The scientist? Do you think this is all a coincidence? People who were involved in researching strange technology, anti-gravity, and propulsion? So, don't worry. No matter what they show us, even if we see a lizard people, if they show us something, and there is something, don't be afraid of them. You have Jesus Christ in you. Strange times. There's just so much deception around this. You know, ever since nuclear weapons. But we know these things have been going on for thousands of years, but ever since nuclear weapons went off, did they start doing this. So, like you can trace all the stories to nuclear subs. They follow nuclear subs under the ocean. They follow nuclear capable weapons. You know, they could deceive us. They could have said in 1949, we're going to deceive people all the way to now. And it's just going to be a continuous story. Of course they could do that. And that's how they fool people, most people. You know, Steven Spielberg coming out with this UFO disclosure movie. Do you think it's a coincidence that they're doing this? So, the Iran war, a big distraction. But even bigger is the Epstein files, right? They don't want any more of that to get out there, of them to find, man, like the Antichrist. They're saying he raped a 13-year-old girl, and it's even worse, okay? But he is at the forefront of all the names in the Epstein files, pretty much, that his name has been mentioned probably 100,000 times. I heard even 1 million. At what point do you start saying he was with them and he did the same things? Right? You know, like honestly, I don't mean to be rude, but, you know, if you think otherwise, I think you're kind of stupid. I don't mean you're stupid at first, but when you start seeing, you know what this guy is doing. And everyone is saying it now. Like, you know, I've said the Antichrist, the man of sin, is the epitome of what is wrong with the entire world rolled up in him. And Satan has given him power in this world. I don't know the next things that happen, and so I don't know any more about this. They're putting out stuff like this. They've been telling us for a long time. Is it time that they tell us? Well, we'll see. 2027, right? And from now until 2027, whatever, right? I know that Apophis is coming in 2029, and that will, in my view, be the beginning of wrath. Trumpet 1 to 5. It's coming whether you like it or not. Whether we like it or not, that thing is coming, and it's massive. And even if it comes like they say, 19,000 miles from the earth, I believe it'll cause a catastrophe all over the earth. It's going twice as fast as I originally thought it was. I thought it was going 30,000 miles an hour, which is fast. What is that, 50,000 kilometers an hour? It's going 68,000 miles an hour. So it's going like 90,000 kilometers an hour. Can you imagine? It weighs 200 times an aircraft carrier. The same size, but it's so dense. How far into the earth do you think that will go? And the experts say, that I've seen, and every Google and Chat GPT, every research I can find says, oh yeah, it's a city killer. Man, no it isn't. It's bigger than that. I believe it is, and I believe they're running models on that. So let's get to the other stuff that I was going to talk about. It fits Revelation. It fits this time. So why would it be so absurd to believe that that would be wormwood? And Trump's 80 years old, right? We're 1 month away from, what's he born, June 4th or 14th? Doesn't matter. 1946. So, what's the other one that I was speaking about? The HANTAVIRUS. So when I said back then, I remember things, I forgot to say this. This is very important. They throw so many things at us. So many viruses, so many troubles, so many jobs lost. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't have fertilizers. Places burn. Places flood. That you forgot what originally happened. So right now off the coast of wherever it is, I forget where it is. Off the Canary Islands or something. There's a cruise ship. And that's very eerily similar to how COVID began. Remember I think it was like 800 people were on a cruise ship off the coast of Florida. Do you remember that? I wonder if that's still searchable or if they got rid of that. That's what happened. And then before you know it, boom. So Moderna comes out and says, oh, we are working on this immediately. The very one that's the reason I have to have my gallbladder taken out very soon, by the way. I'm actively searching to get it taken out to pay because it induced a rare gallbladder disorder. That's why I have trouble in these videos, a lot of the reason. So I'm going to read something to you, and it pertains to what we're hearing. You know, the hantavirus spread by rodents or whatever, man. Isn't it funny that it's not happening? It's not happening in Russia. It's not happening in China. It's not happening in every other place. All these new diseases are in the U.S. What an evil time. Man, you just want to see these evil people thrown into the lake of fire. I'm being honest. Look what they're doing with us. Look at the prices that we're having to pay for things. The prices of apartments. The prices of, you know, I bought oranges. I buy these oranges to try to stave off kidney stones. And a bag of oranges, it was pretty big, you know, like, you know, maybe like this, of like Mandarin orange, like 30 bucks. 30 bucks. So I have to buy the bigger, different ones that are like, you know, try to find 99 cents per pound type thing. Pardon me. They own everything. They buy up everything. These are the most evil people to ever exist or will exist. And we are right at the precipice of when things are going to turn really bad. Don't you see it? They're trying something. That war is failing. The Epstein files probably could damn a lot of people. These are very influential people. Very influential, and there's more who have not been unearthed. So, let's read this scripture. I'll talk about this further and what you and I should do. Psalm 91, I'm not reading the whole thing. But I will start from the beginning. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come to you. come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. And then actually the next part is what Jesus quoted to the devil in the wilderness. It's a great scripture, isn't it? So how many of you please do me a favor, if you're born again, put down in the comment section if you were born again at that time. I actually want to know this. I should probably make a poll. But please mark it down. Did you get coronavirus when it came? I didn't, but I wasn't born again then. And I'm not saying that, well, keep your faith and let's hope nothing ever touches you. Right? To hold that faith. And even if it does, and even if it threatens your life to kill you, so be it. To die is gain. To live is Christ. To die is gain. So, is there anything else? Just think of how evil you have to be. They have every connection. They own everything. They have a monopoly on everything. You can't go on a computer without there being, unless you have an ad blocker, but they're actively winning against ad blocker. Can't sign in here because you have an ad blocker. You know, that type of thing. Can't sign into your bank because of ad blocker. That even on, I go to Bible Gateway to do some of my studies, and there's an ad at the top and the side and the bottom. Like, let me have my page. That's an evil time. Can you imagine any of the people in the Bible that we love, who love the scriptures, to open up their Bible in a book and there to be a half-naked woman on the side? They'd throw it to the ground. They'd burn it. This is what they're doing to us. And yeah, it's their choice to go and do that, but you know, we have to live in the world, right? We are not of the world, but we have to live in the world. So I made the mistake of getting that injection. So did many of us. And I have a very serious pain disorder of my spine, you know, adhesive arachnoiditis, adhesions in my spine. So I was wondering, like, for 6 months I looked into this before I got that shot. I felt forced by my government to get this shot. It was the hardest place around of all the countries that were saying, you can't shop here unless you have some type of pass. Canada, horrible. Ontario, of course. Well, no, it was all Canada, but I will not let that happen again. I will not let that happen again. That took away a lot of my enjoyment of life because of what it did to my gallbladder. It really hurts. And then they wouldn't take it out because it's a functional disorder, even though it's a pain of a gallstone. So I have to pay now. So, just looking at the temperature. So we wait, but we don't wait in fear, right? I think that's just about everything I want to say. When I finish videos, of course, there's things, oh man, why didn't I say that? I'm not making another video. But just imagine that they're telling us, and they've been telling us for many years. You know, I grew up and I loved the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Fire in the Sky. I thought these movies were awesome. You know, I was like science fiction type guy. Thriller, horror. I love those. But they've been trying to tell us something ever since, you know, even my dad, he's 81 years old, and he watched these these alien type movies ever since what's it happened at Area 51. You know, the day the Earth stood still. They did that twice. You know, the one with Keanu Reeves and the one way back in the 50s or 60s. War of the Worlds. So if there is something, to tell you the honest truth, I don't know what it would be scripturally. Yes, thank you, Spirit. You wonder, and I'm not here to debate this. When will Satan be kicked out of heaven? It's quite possible he has not been yet. Woe to those who are on the earth when it gets really bad. That could be the part when wrath begins. I don't know. You know, it could be, and that's when these things show up. Or even earlier. Who knows what? Like, but the channel I was listening to last night that was showing me all these things, the Tyler Wood encounter, I watched his video yesterday. He read something very interesting that I'd never thought about twice. Let me take a bite here, and I'm going to finish my video. Look into this, though. Why would Paul the Apostle say this? Certainly can be a revelation, a new revelation to each one of us. What did he say? What was the verse again? I have to look at it, but you know, if any person or any angel from heaven, you know, speaks another gospel, let him be accursed. Why wouldn't Paul just say, I just heard this last night, and I do find that interesting. We'll see. I'm not going to dwell on it. Why would Paul mention, or an angel from heaven? Isn't that strange that Paul would include that? Why would an angel, why would he include that? Who knows? Paul was just expressing himself and saying, no matter what comes to you. Or it could be that Paul knew. I believe Paul knew a lot. And many things that he wished he could say, but he can't. He had a thorn in his flesh. There was probably a lot of things he wanted to say. I believe he was given a ton of revelations because of the way he writes. You know, there's a lot of people like to put Paul down, but, you know, even though it says, and go spread the gospel to the whole world, but the Jews really didn't do that. There had to be a fulfillment for the Gentiles. We were never an afterthought. We were always supposed to be. As Jesus said, I have other sheep. We are those other sheep. I'm trying to think of where I was going with this. Without Paul, it would not have spread as it did. I love Paul. I love his writings. A lot of the things he said are coming to pass, the way that people will be. Right? When they say peace and safety, and this is the time. You know, people think when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction, they think in terms of it must happen within a few days. That's never what Scripture is like, and it can vary, right? Peace 2025. The biggest thing I've ever seen. October 13th of last year. They had Peace and Safety Conference 2025 in El Sheikh, Egypt. And 3.5 years. What was that again? I can't think of it in my mind, but you'll read it in my article if you want my article. If you want my article. What was that again? I know what it is. I'm just thinking of the mathematics. I don't want to give wrong mathematics. If you count 3.5 years from the time of Apophis. 3.5 years backwards. Tom Horn said you'd probably land on the tribulation, the date of the tribulation. And it landed, of all days, on what I think was Daniel 9:27. You don't believe me? Go be a Berean and look and search if the things I say are true. They had those massive letters, Peace 2025. Go back and research what I'm saying to you. The Christian world was wondering, is this Daniel 9:27? Go look at all those videos. But what probably 99.9% of them didn't know was that it took place in El Sheikh, Egypt. Tom Horn warned about this. He believed that Apophis was the fulfillment of Wormwood, and so do I. But he never died to see the fulfillment of October. He knew. He said October 13th, 2025 is what he knew to look out for. But he died in 2023. So I made a video saying, look, you can go look back in my videos. It's still there. I'm not going to take that down. The very split between tribulation and wrath gives you a mathematical equation. If Apophis is Wormwood, which it is, trumpet 1 to 5. He knew this in 2004. Talked to many scientists, many of them, impact specialists, to see. He showed them the book of Revelation, trumpet 1 to 5. They said it's the stages of an asteroid. And it says in Revelation, an asteroid is coming. The original Greek says, it says in our book, star. If you go look and you do the translation, it's aster, right? Asteroid. So we know one's coming. So he knew it was, even before all these things started to happen in our world before 2020. So he said, we have the date of wrath. Trumpet 1 to 4 is wrath, because seal 6, it says we are saved then, because that's when wrath begins. We're not destined to wrath. You want my article? Look at my email address and what I said. He was right. He was right, man. We know that that's the point when wrath begins. So he said, count back 3.5 years to get to the beginning of tribulation. And it landed on Peace 2025 in El Sheikh, Egypt. Apophis, God, the Egyptian god of chaos and destruction. The Egyptian god. Where did he go for this peace conference? Egypt. And then that night they had their laser shows against the pyramids with their all-seeing eyes and all that. I know what I'm talking about. But it does take faith to believe something that much. If you want my article, email me.